Hello, welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with some more updates coming out from the Russia and Ukraine war. We've got lots and lots of updates in regards of Ukraine today. One of the biggest things that we have to talk about first is Ukraine is celebrating their 33rd Independence Day today on August 24th, 2024. This video footage that you're watching is a video that was released on X for Ukraine in celebration of their 33rd Independence Day anniversary. Okay, so very, very big day for Ukraine. We know that Volodymyr Zelensky has been giving out lots of awards to government members of Ukraine. Also, I've got some huge reports later too that Oleksandr Syrsky has been promoted, so we'll talk about that as well. He's the one of the generals of the Ukrainian armed forces, and so we'll talk about some more of that here in just a moment. But we've also got reports that inside of Russia in the Voronezh region, we have an ammo depot again that has been blown up. Okay, this is probably 2 or 3 ammo depots in multiple parts of Western Russia just in the last few days here that have been blown up. And we've got video footage showing that for you guys in just a little bit. It looks like it was in the town name of Ostrohovsk. I think is how you say it, Ostrohovsk, that this ammo depot was at when it got blown up. We've got lots and lots of secondary explosions. We've got reports as well that more than 5,000 tons of ammunition was hit in this explosion, and this ammo depot was destroyed by drones, okay? So lots and lots of big news coming out from Ukraine. So let's go ahead and jump right into this information and start sharing with you guys. We got lots of things on X to go over. From Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, today we celebrate the 33rd Independence Day of Ukraine. We are confident the Ukrainians will always celebrate this holiday in their free capital and within their own sovereign state. Ukraine will always remain independent. This is beyond question. Together we have given a historic answer through our unity, courage, and collective effort. The answer to whether Ukraine should exist and whether Ukrainians should exist. When external aggression poses such a question to our nation, or to a nation, everything depends on millions of people. Each through their actions determines the fate of the entire people, and the entire people with their collective strength determines the fate of each individual. Ukraine, I congratulate you on your Independence Day. Ukrainians, I am proud of you. So we got some photos here that came out. Here's Volodymyr Zelensky while he was in Kiev speaking to the Ukrainians. Here's some other photos as well. Here's Volodymyr Zelensky right here. We got a couple more photos. Looks like some members of the Ukrainian military here as well. And one more photo there. Looks like he was giving an award to somebody as well. So lots and lots of big news coming out from Ukraine today. So let's go ahead and keep moving here. We're going to talk about this this ammo dump that got destroyed in the Voronezh region now. Okay, so this is from Igor Sushko. Russia, Ukrainian drones destroyed a munitions depot in Ostrogosk. I think is how you say it. Ostrogosk. That's a really hard name to say. These names are just too much for me. This is in the Voronezh region, and we've got video footage, 30 seconds coming out here of this thing being destroyed by what is apparently was a drone swarm that targeted this ammo munitions dump. So take a look at this. Okay, as we can see, multiple secondary explosions going off here. We can see it shook the camera when this first explosion went off. We can see all the detonations of the other munitions that are here, all these little sparks going everywhere. So definitely a major hit with drones that targeted this ammo munitions depot. And again, we continue to see this over the last week or so. We've seen multiple ammo depots being destroyed across Russia. We had one at the Morozovsk airfield, I believe, also one at the Marinovka airfield, and we've got this one as well in the Voronezh region, okay? So very, very big news here, and we continue to see the Ukrainians locating where all these ammo depots are at. And again, I've been telling you guys that Volodymyr Zelensky came out just weeks ago and said, you know what, if the U.S. is not going to back us to go after these airfields and prevent these glide bombs from dropping all over Ukraine, we are going to do it ourselves, and we are seeing them doing that. And I've got some big news coming out here in just a moment as well that shows that Ukraine has definitely taken the fight into their own hands, and they're gonna bring the fight to Russia without the help of the West, if the West is not going to back them to allow them to launch long-range strikes into Russia using long-range cruise missiles, ballistic missiles that are given to them by the West. Okay, so I got this map pulled up to kind of show you where this took place at. So we'll go full screen for a minute. And this is Ukrainian territory over here. Here's Russia, right? Here's Russia. There's Moscow. So we'll zoom in over here to the Voronezh region. It's actually right next to Belgorod, if you weren't aware of this. And on the western side of the Voronezh region, on the left side over here, here's this town of Ostrogosk. Okay, I think is how we pronounce it. So near here, I don't know exactly where it was located at, but what's the information that's being given is it was very close to this town where this munitions depot was hit. Okay, so we're talking the western side of the Voronezh region, and Voronezh has been one of those regions that continuously comes under attack by drones. We have the Rostov region here down here that got hit by drones as well, where that Kavkaz oil refinery is still on fire today. We got some updates regarding that as well. So another massive hit from the Ukrainians. I think I got a couple more videos to show you guys here as well. This one's from Nexta. Intelligence officers blow up large ammunition depot in Russia. On August 24th, the Defense Intelligence Service of Ukraine conducted a successful fire attack on a field ammunition depot near Ostrogosk, Voronezh region. The facility stored artillery and tank shells, small arms ammunition, and surface-to-air missiles for the occupying forces. And it says more than 5,000 tons of ammunition in all. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at this video as well. This is another look at this ammo depot that was blown up. Okay, so this one's a little bit quicker video, but definitely we can see here, if we scroll back, we can see this thing on fire in the distance, lots and lots of smoke. So definitely another major hit to Russia. And just imagine the amount of losses just in monetary value of how much these missiles, everything that was stored here at this base. I wouldn't be surprised some of these were glide bombs as well, just because considering that this base was so close to Ukraine, we know that a lot of their glide bombs are stored at military airfields very close to the Ukrainian border, because that's where they launch their Su-34s that carry these glide bombs, is very close to the border. Okay, they don't store them 1,000 kilometers or further back. They store them very close to the Ukrainian border, and that's why Ukraine is locating where all these weapons depots are at, and they're destroying all of them. Okay, so it's definitely going to help Ukraine in the long run, as they will not be seeing as many missiles or glide bombs, things like that, flying into their territory if they're destroying hundreds or thousands of these at a time. Okay, so very, very big hit. Then we got one more video here. This one came out, this was the most recent video footage. As we can see, it's already starting to turn into the day here, and we still have explosions going on in the Voronezh region, in this town of Ostrogosk, where this weapons depot was at. So it says here from Vicegrad 24, there are still large secondary explosions in Ostrogosk, in the Voronezh region of Russia, after a Russian weapons depot was struck by a Ukrainian drone swarm. So 29 seconds, take a look at this as well.
Шарахнет. Вот так, па. Сейчас еще раз, слушай. Шарахнет.
All right, pretty insane, right? I mean, think about that. Hours later, and this ammo depot is still exploding. We still having ammunition at this depot that's still going up in flames and exploding. So absolutely crazy that hours later we're still seeing that. So we'll go ahead and keep moving here. I've got some other things that I want to show you. So take a look at this. This is absolutely huge news coming out from Ukraine as well. Vicegrad 24 breaking. Speaking in Kiev together with the leaders of Poland and Lithuania, Zelensky announced that Ukraine has a new class of weapons and struck enemy targets with them for the first time today. The new weapon is a drone, a rocket drone called, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, Palyanitsia. I think is how you say it, Palyanitsia. It's a very tough word to say as well. I'll try to practice that, see if we can get correct pronunciation, but I think it's Palyanitsia. And this is a new drone that has a rocket engine on it now. Okay, guys, this is not just a normal, propeller style drone. This is a drone that has an actual rocket system on it, similar to, like a missile or something. So it's kind of in a way somewhat like a missile drone. And we'll show you some of the details on this drone here in just a minute. But we've got Volodymyr Zelensky announcing that they now have these drones, these rocket drones, the Palyannitsia. And this is going to be huge, okay? This is going to completely change the game. If they've already been, having successful attacks with the older style drones they've been using, imagine these new drones. And they claim that they used it for the first time today. I was hearing some reports that ammo depot that got hit could have potentially been hit with these Palyannitsia rocket drones. I'm not sure 100% though, but they definitely claim that they used one and struck something against the Russians. So take a look at this.
Перше і успішне бойове застосування нашої нової зброї, абсолютно нового класу зброї української ракети-дрона «Паляниці». Це новий наш метод відплати агресору. Ворога було уражено. Я дякую всім, хто це забезпечив. Усім розробникам, виробникам і нашим воїнам. Пишаюся вами. Саме сьогодні...
Okay, so we'll go with Palyannitsia, I think is how he said it. He might have pronounced it with the Ukrainian accent. But yeah, huge news, guys. I mean, obviously, here's Andrzej Duda, the Polish president that visited Ukraine as well today, obviously for the 33rd anniversary of their Independence Day, and then also Lithuania's prime minister as well visiting, and I believe she also gave something like 35 million in support for Ukraine as well. So another big package going out to Ukraine, and this is crazy, guys. I mean, like I told you, Ukraine is not messing around anymore. They are ready to win this war. They are ready to defeat the Russians. Now, will they be able to do that? Time will tell. We'll have to see what happens here, but I will let you know, and I've been showing all of you guys that Russia is taking massive blows right now, okay? Huge, huge hits, just like this ammunition depot. I mean, we're not seeing these kind of attacks on Ukraine. We were months back, but we are not seeing any more of that. Now, I don't know if that's because this information is just not being reported, but in terms of losses, what we are seeing right now, what's being reported, especially even on independent medias like here on X, is the Russians are just taking blow after blow after blow, whether it's oil depots, ammo depots, airfields, the Kursk offensive, Bryansk offensive now, Belgorod offensive. I mean, the Ukrainians are definitely pushing really hard to try to win this right now, and this thing is going to get out of control very quickly. So we're going to go ahead and keep moving here. I've got some more information regarding this Palyannitsia rocket drone. Max 24, we have mortar drones, artillery drones. Now we have a completely new class of weapons, rocket drones, says Kamishin. Today, Palyannitsia drone missile was successfully used, hitting enemy military facility and temporarily occupied territory. Okay, so based on this information, this was probably used somewhere inside of occupied Ukraine. But take a look at these photos, guys. Pretty crazy. I mean, look at that thing. To me, it looks like a missile with some wings on it. It almost kind of looks like a smaller, skinnier version of the glide bombs that Russia uses, okay? Russia has these glide bombs with these very similar wings that kind of stick out like that, and then it'll be a giant bomb in the middle. And Ukraine has just newly developed these. So take a look at that. Here's the rocket propeller system on the back of this rocket drone. And I'm assuming these things will probably be able to fly much faster, and they've got a much greater sized warhead on the front of them as well. So let's take a look at this now from Aurora Borealis. Meet Palyannitsia. Okay, we've got this picture that's been put out for us to take a look at, this diagram that shows the breakdown of what this thing is made of and what the capabilities are. So we'll start up here. It's got a vertical stabilizer, no rudder, bolt-on tail access to the engine. And then the engine is a JetCat P400 Pro micro turbojet, and the weight is 4 kilograms, diameter is 0.15 meters, length is 0.39 meters, thrust is 43 kilograms. It's got wooden frames on the inside, which makes it very light, and then it's made out of fiberglass. The body is fiberglass, which also makes it very light. It's got a 20 kilogram blast fragmentation warhead, so very large size warhead. large fuel tank, meaning it can travel very far. I wouldn't be surprised. I think these things might be able to go upwards of 1,500 kilometers or more inside of Russia. And we also heard from Vladimir Zelensky that he's saying that they can pretty much strike anywhere inside of Russia. I'm going to show you guys that here in a little bit too. This is probably going to change the game. Okay, Elevon, which I believe allows the wings to go up and down as this thing travels. Wings can be detached for transport and storage. Okay, so this thing definitely looks like a game-changing drone for Ukraine, and this is going to give them greater strike capabilities to go after more airfields, go after more oil depots, and we know the Russians have been constructing barricades around many of their oil storage tanks at a lot of oil depots in Russia because they're afraid that more of them are going to be blown up. So this thing is going to create havoc and chaos across Russia very soon. So look at this now, what we were just discussing. Bliskovka reports, Volodymyr Zelensky said that Ukraine will soon be able to attack any point of the Russian Federation, says the Telegraph. Okay, so this came out in the Telegraph. Ukraine will soon be able to attack any part of Russia, says Zelensky. Okay, so any part of Russia, does that mean 2,000 plus kilometers into Russian territory? Yes, I think it's very possible. And with this new Palinitsia drone with that large fuel tank, we'll have to see what the exact distances of how far this thing can go. But we know that even some of the smaller drones they have can easily go 1,300 kilometers into Russia. We've seen that happen. So if this thing has an even larger fuel tank, I would not be surprised it can go even much further, and maybe even double the distance. Okay, so no airfields are going to be safe. No military installations. Nothing is going to be safe in Russia anymore now that Vladimir Zelensky has this in his hands in Ukraine. And we also know that the Neptune missile has been upgraded as well. And as far as I know, the Neptune missile is going to be able to go something like 1,000 kilometers into Russian territory, if not further. So very, very big news. All right, so let's go ahead and keep moving here. On over to Nexta. WP says, Ukraine with its offensive in the Kursk region is trying to show the West that it is possible, to cross Putin's red lines. So Zelensky is now demanding that Washington's restrictions, which prohibit Kyiv from using Western weapons for long-range strikes against targets in Russia, be lifted. Okay, so I talked about this recently, that this could be one of the reasons why Ukraine pushed into the Kursk region, is to give themselves the ability to go after Russia inside of their own territory. Because what did we see whenever Ukraine launched their offensive into the Kursk region? All of a sudden, all these countries coming out and saying, you know what, it's okay, go ahead and take our tanks, take our armored vehicles, whatever you want, let them roll right into Russia. And the only thing we haven't heard yet is long-range weapons, aside from maybe HIMARS, which is not really long-range, but still a decent amount of range and a high-powered missile system that is being used right now in the Kursk region, and we're just waiting for ATACMS and like British Storm Shadow missiles, Scout missiles from the French to be used very soon. And this is what Ukraine is talking about, that they want the West to allow them to start striking inside of Russian territory with these. And if they were able to, they could completely devastate all these airfields if they really wanted to, if they had the ability to do so. So we know that Zelensky's really pushing for that right now. And that's another reason why they launched this offensive, to prove to the West that Vladimir Putin has no red lines, that all these red lines are fake, that we expected even potentially a nuclear strike out of this offensive, and clearly there's no response coming, but we do know that the Russians are planning some sort of retaliation event soon. So also from Azov South, the United States is already discussing with Ukraine the increase in the depth of strikes on the territory of the Russian Federation with the help of American missiles, says John Kirby. Okay, so John Kirby, National Security Advisor, coming out and saying that, pretty soon we could be having Ukraine using these long-range weapons, American missiles, going into Russian territory. And these are like the ATACMS right here, okay? These are the ATACMS missiles that we're talking about. So this is very huge. Like I told you guys, I think this is coming at some point. I think very soon, at some point, we will see the U.S. lift these restrictions out of nowhere. I've been reporting this time and time again, and it looks like this is coming at some point. Okay, so also from Nexta, representative of Ukraine's Defense Intelligence Yusov, Kyiv has developed a plan to deoccupy Crimea and destroy the Crimean Bridge. Okay, I've been mentioning this multiple times too, even before we heard all this information. Right when I saw the amount of strikes taking place in Crimea, we saw the Russian Black Sea Fleet get chased out from Magura V5 drones. We see the Kerch Bridge coming under attack. We see the ferries being destroyed. I've got some updates on that, by the way. Some ferries at the port of Kavkaz transporting liquefied natural gas and fuel from the Russian mainland over to Crimea being destroyed. I mean, Ukraine is definitely setting up the opportunity to go after Crimea at some point, and this is exactly what was being said here by the representative of Ukraine's Defense Intelligence, Yusov, okay? That they are developing a plan to deoccupy Crimea and destroy the Crimean Bridge, and we all know that's coming. At some point, the Kerch Bridge will be struck and destroyed, and once that happens, there's going to be basically no way for the Russians to bring anything to the population of Crimea. They're not going to be able to bring any supplies to them at all. It's going to be very difficult for them to do that. No fuel, no nothing. And we know the citizens there already. I've seen some pictures coming out on X as well that the citizens over there are in a very dire need situation. They're all trying to hoard fuel, especially right now, fuel and supplies, because they're afraid that things are going to get cut off at some point. So very, very big news coming out right here from Ukraine as well. So take a look at this also from Matt Short, or I don't know if it's Modus Short. Fresh column close to Kursk. So we've got another Russian column here. I can't show you the sound, unfortunately, because there is music in this video, but we can check this out just briefly for a minute. Another major Russian column heading over to the Kursk region to back up the troops that are currently fighting against the Ukrainians right now, okay? So we are starting to see lots and lots of this now, and this also indicates why we are seeing the Ukrainians kind of slow down in that region. If you notice, the first week that this offensive was launched into the Kursk region, we heard updates almost every day. The Ukrainians were moving another 50, 100 square kilometers of Russian territory was being taken over. Now, what are we hearing? It's probably been about 3 days now, maybe almost 4 days, that we have not heard any updates coming out from Ukraine as to how much territory they're taking inside of the Kursk region. Now, I know a lot of attention is being diverted to other areas of this war, but we definitely have not had very many updates lately, and the updates that we do get are much more incremental in terms of gains in the Kursk region, okay? So let's go ahead and keep going, guys. Also from Bliskovka, Ukraine wants to force Putin to end the war diplomatically, but it is ready to do it by force, says Zelensky. Some more of the statements of the president. So this was him speaking here. We're not going to watch this because there's no subtitles and it's in Ukrainian, but these were some of the things that he was mentioning, okay? Some more of the statements of the president. 1,500 kilometers. We already have such drones, and now missile drones, Palyanitsia, are also appearing. It is much faster than our long-range drones and more powerful. Someone is now talking about a buffer zone in the chicken coop. Someone said that we are playing a card for dialogue. We are not playing for any cards. Look at that. We'll talk about that in a second. The goals of the Kursk operation are more than those that I told you about publicly. One of them is to show the reality of who Putin is, and that the occupation of Ukraine is more valuable to him than the protection of his population. Okay, so how it's saying we're not playing any cards, okay, is that a lot of people were saying, well, maybe Ukraine attacked the Kursk region to use it as leverage to give up, for Russia to give up some of the gains that they've made on the eastern side of their country so they can get some of their land back, or maybe Crimea, who knows, or a portion of Crimea. But he's saying here they're not playing any cards, okay? It's not for dialogue at all, not at all for negotiations. And then also right here, this is huge too. He says the occupation of Ukraine is more valuable to him than the protection of his population. Yeah, definitely. I mean, his land has been invaded in Russia, and yet they only send a few thousand troops over there. I've heard the Chechnyan forces are sending some as well, potentially up to 40,000 troops. We'll see. But you would think that if your country was invaded, you would think that Russia would completely pull their troops out of eastern Ukraine, right, and go and defend their land. But they're not doing that. They've sent a few thousand from the eastern side and southern fronts of Ukraine. But for the most part, they're still keeping the fighting there. And that's what he means here, is that the land that's being occupied in Ukraine is more valuable to him than the protection of his own people. And we've seen that also in the Kursk region. Many of these citizens there are saying that they've been left behind, that the the Russian government is not doing anything for them. They're not protecting them. They're not getting them out of there. They've basically just been left for dead, basically, and it's very sad to see that. But Volodymyr Zelensky definitely has a point here, okay? Also from Bliskovka, the EU will discuss sending military instructors to Ukraine for the first time, says Welt. France, the Baltic states, Denmark, Sweden are in favor of sending military instructors to Ukraine, while Austria, Hungary, Germany, Malta, and Slovenia are against it, fearing an escalation of the conflict. Okay, so the reason why I brought this up, we've been hearing this for a very long time, so I understand that. We've been hearing for a while now that NATO's been wanting to send military instructors, especially France. They came out and said that months back, and as far as I know, they never even did it, or maybe they did it covertly, who knows. But this is really big because didn't we just hear from, Alexander Lukashenko, the president of Belarus, coming out and saying that if NATO decides to enter into the conflict in Ukraine, that they will use nuclear weapons? Okay, didn't they say that? Now we've got these reports that multiple NATO nations as well are coming out and saying that they're planning on sending military instructors to Ukraine for the first time. So this is absolutely huge. I'll continue to follow that. Maybe we'll get some updates on this, but that could be really, really big news, okay? So also from Nexta, here's some information about the Polish president, Andrzej Duda, arriving in Kiev. So this was him getting off the locomotive there, shaking hands with some of the top staff of Ukraine as he's going to go meet with Volodymyr Zelensky, okay? So I've got some updates regarding this as well. So look at this from Nexta. President Duda, NATO is still discussing the defense of Ukrainian skies. As for the issue of protecting Ukrainian skies with military assets of individual NATO countries, this is a matter of defense. There is a red line around which NATO is discussing. The discussion is ongoing, he said. Excuse me. So what did we hear recently? Probably about maybe 2 to 3 weeks ago, we heard that Poland was considering shooting down Russian missiles over the western side of Ukraine, not inside of Polish territory, but Ukrainian territory. And we had Russia coming out and saying, you better not do that. Don't get involved in this war. Because obviously if they do that, that will show that NATO is now involved at shooting down Russian missiles over Ukraine. So apparently they're still discussing that, although there's been lots of pushback from the West. Excuse me. And the United States coming out and saying that they should not do this, do not get involved in the war. We know that the U.S. has been very hesitant as well when it comes to involving themselves in this war, and especially allowing long-range strikes inside of Russia. So also from Nexta, Andrzej Duda, the war will soon end with the victory of the forces of freedom over the world of tyranny. Okay, so Andrzej Duda coming out and saying that Ukraine is going to win. Okay, now I know he wants to be optimistic, and I'm sure many of you want to be optimistic. And you know, if a country that has been invaded wins this war, I mean, obviously that'd be absolutely huge. Okay, what would that show for the rest of the world? Especially considering that Ukraine is an independent, sovereign nation, and them being invaded by what would be considered a much greater fighting force and a humongous military compared to many countries around the world, and Ukraine being able to stop this, that could be absolutely huge. Okay, so that was a big statement coming out from Andrzej Duda. Also, again from Andrzej Duda, says Nexta, if Russians flee Ukraine, I will be the first to call Zelensky and ask him not to finish them off. Zelensky says, what if my phone is busy? That happens sometimes. You call me and my line is busy. So he was basically joking with Andrzej Duda and saying, if the Russians end up fleeing Ukraine and they realize they can't hold the Eastern Front no more, Andrzej Duda will try to call Zelensky and say, don't finish them off. Let them flee and run away. And then basically, Volodymyr Zelensky is going to say that he's too busy to answer the phone. He's going to go ahead and finish off the Russians. So obviously a major statement, but he's obviously kind of just, fiddling around and trying to have some fun with this at the same time is kind of what I take from that. So also we'll move on to Anton Goroshenko. Welcome home. They look so thin and exhausted. Okay, so what was reported here today, 115 Ukrainian defenders return home today in a prisoner exchange. So it looks like Russia and Ukraine were able to negotiate some sort of prisoner exchange again. Here's a photo that came out. 115 Ukrainian defenders that were taken back from Russian captivity. And just look at them again. I mean, look at the conditions of these men. Okay, we're going to continue to see this. Look at how skinny they are. All right, they definitely were barely fed, barely kept alive, and obviously not cared for in the best way possible, potentially even tortured. We've heard that sometimes they are tortured, which is horrible. But that's how we continue to see these troops coming back. Okay, they show up in decent condition when they're captured, and then when they come back, they're just absolutely malnutritioned and just everything. We can clearly see that, right? So we'll keep moving here. Also from Bliskovka, we're going to talk about a couple other nations now. We'll talk about Iran first. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Iran congratulated Ukraine on Independence Day. It is quite difficult to imagine something more cynical. Okay, so there was this report that came out. It was on X. The Islamic Republic of Iran congratulates the government of the people of Ukraine on their Independence Day. So why is this significant, and why is this kind of, I guess you could say it's kind of funny at the same time, is that obviously Iran's been supplying Russia with Shahed attack drones, okay? For nearly the entire duration of this war, they've been sending them attack drones that are launched all over Ukraine. Many citizens are wounded, sometimes unfortunately killed in these attacks too. So why would Iran come out and congratulate them on their Independence Day when they're being attacked by an invading force like Russia that wants to take them over and essentially take away their independence? Okay, so just kind of as this person said, it's very cynical, right? So also take a look at this from Belarus. Here's another country coming out and congratulating them. From War Translated Dmitry. The man who authorized the use of his territory to invade Ukraine towards Kiev in 2022 congratulates Ukraine on its Independence Day. The Belarusian land has always treated the warm-hearted and hardworking people of Ukraine with special respect and warmth. For a long time, our nations found strength and unity, shared joy and sorrow, shelter and bread, overcame adversity together, and were proud of their successes. We are united not only by common destiny and family ties, but also by the desire to be friends and get along with our neighbors. So I'm not sure how allowing Russian forces to come through their country and invade to attack Kiev, and also Belarus has been backing Russia this entire war as well. Okay, they just gave a bunch of military equipment over to Russia in just a week or two ago, right? I reported on that, as Russia's been running out of equipment to fight back against the Ukrainians in the Kursk region, and also threatening to use nuclear weapons on Ukraine, yet at the same time they say they want to be friends and get along with our neighbors. So definitely very, very strange psychological warfare is kind of how I see this that's being tossed around, and we definitely are seeing that from some of the partners on Russia's side, okay? So also, next to report, Zelensky awarded Oleksandr Syrsky the military rank of general. Previously, the AFU commander-in-chief had the military rank of colonel general. Okay, so it looks like Oleksandr Syrsky getting promoted now, becoming the general of the Ukrainian armed forces. So very, very big promotion for him as well. So also, let's take a look at this from Volodymyr Zelensky on X. I have this translated so we can understand what he's saying here. I am grateful to the United States for imposing additional tough sanctions on Russia today. This was yesterday, actually. Sanctions against almost 400 individuals and legal entities, both in Russia and abroad, will further weaken the Russian Federation's ability to wage an aggressive war against Ukraine. It is necessary to maintain and constantly increase the pressure on the aggressor while Russia continues its aggression. Thank you to the U.S. for leading this important cause. Together with all our partners, all peace-loving countries, we must restore respect for the UN Charter and force Russia to make peace. Okay, so this was huge too. More sanctions going out on Russia, and also banks that are doing business with Russia to provide weaponry for their war or funding. The West is really trying to cut Russia off as much as possible so they can't evade sanctions, go around them, and still try to get the weapon supplies they need, computer chips, whatever it might be, to produce all the weaponry, the missiles, the drones, the artillery shells, whatever it might be. The West is really trying hard to cut them off economically to slow down their ability to continue fighting this war. So that was pretty big information that came out yesterday once again. Also from War Translated Dmitry, I've got a few more posts here to share with you guys. Russian sources report that the Ukrainian armed forces are allegedly concentrating in the Zaporizhzhia region for a combined air and ground attack on the Kinburn Peninsula and Tokmak. While the conversations have been ongoing for several days on Russian channels, the paranoia is likely influenced by the invasion of Kursk. So lots of talk on Russian Telegram channels discussing the fact that the Ukrainians are launching an offensive in the Zaporizhzhia region. I think it was just yesterday I let you guys know this was going on. So we'll read this briefly. Regarding the situation in the Kherson region, according to our information, the enemy is concentrating forces in the Odessa region, as well as the area of the settlement of Ochakov, with the aim of attacking the Kinburn and Tendrovskaya Spits. As part of these activities, the enemy is preparing an attack with landing forces, UAVs, and unmanned boats. Huh, that's interesting. Maybe we talked about yesterday, was it Kinburn Spit, that came under attack by Ukrainian FPV drones, destroying an ammunition depot as well, or an ammunition building inside of the Kinburn Spit, was just south of Ukraine, getting close to Crimea. So are they really preparing to attack Crimea at some point soon? Very possible if this information is correct. It is likely that aviation will be used to cover ground forces, as well as the purpose of quickly transferring land forces. This summary will be supplemented as new information arrives. According to our information, the enemy is forming a group of 4 brigades with the aim of attacking the direction of the Vasilyevka-Tokmak Highway. As part of the preparation, over 150 armored vehicles have been moved to the territory of the city of Zaporizhzhia, as well as to the south in the area of the settlement of Primorskoye. If the enemy does not abandon its intentions, active action should be expected in the near future. With all this, these maneuvers of the armed forces of Ukraine may be part of an operational plan to force the Russian armed forces to transfer reserves and fire brigades from one important direction to another. So I don't know if this is indicating some potential attack coming on Crimea pretty soon, but we definitely know, I reported to you guys, I think it was yesterday, that in the Zaporizhzhia region, Russian forces were communicating on Telegram saying that the Ukrainians were preparing a massive offensive in that region as well. That's on the southern side of Ukraine. So let's move over to Russia just for a moment. And my apologies, there is some profanity here. We're not going to state what that word is, but from Mikhailo Golub, says Rostov is on fire. Okay, so this is where the Kavkaz oil depot is at that we've been talking about, that's been on fire for literally a week now, since last Saturday. This fire got so wildly out of control that it started to spread amongst the city. And look at this fire. I mean, it's all over the place now. And the fire department is having a very, very difficult time trying to get this fire put out, clearly, because it's actually spreaded throughout the city. So pretty crazy. Also, one more video coming out here too from this same region. The informant reports residents of Proletarsk in Russia's Rostov region, whose oil depot has been on fire for a week after a Ukrainian drone attack, complained that it has become impossible to breathe in the city. All the smoke fell over the city, but of course we have no emissions. Everything is fine and wonderful here. Okay, so apparently they're having trouble breathing over here now because of the amount of smoke that has been created after this oil depot got hit by multiple drones that actually came under attack twice within like 3 days. And right when they were just about to get it put out, at least it appeared that they were able to, or almost able to, it got struck again, and we got more fire breaking out, which is why this thing has just gotten wildly out of control. So 14 seconds, take a look at this.
Смотрите, какая сейчас ситуация. Весь дым просто лег на город. Это вообще ужас. Конечно, у нас никаких выхлопов нет. У нас все нормально, прекрасно.
Okay, so my apologies if it was a little loud there in the beginning, but we can definitely hear that it's very windy as well in this video, so that definitely explains why there's so much smoke. The smoke's probably just blowing all over the place, and again, the people here are complaining, the residents of the Rostov region, that they cannot breathe, basically, because of the amount of smoke that is in the air. So very unfortunate for those people that have to deal with that. Hopefully this fire can get put out as soon as possible, but it's been burning for an entire week. Okay, also, War Translated Dmitry reports, the Crimean Wind explains the situation with fuel delivery to Crimea after yesterday's strike on the Conroe Trader Ferry. According to their information, all 3 existing tankers are no longer operational, while fuel transportation across the bridge has not been carried out since previous strikes on the bridge. Okay, so this is going to talk about these ferries coming under attack at the port of Kavkaz that I've been talking about, okay? So let's go ahead and read this information. On the situation with the ferry crossing and fuel supplies to Crimea, 3 railway ferries were operating on the Kerch ferry crossing, the Avangard, Slavyanin, and Conroe Trader. The ferry Avangard was hit in May 30th and was seriously damaged. The ship's starboard side was essentially torn apart. Now Avangard is undergoing repairs. It is unknown when it will return to service. So the Avangard is out of service right now, right? There's only 3 of these. The Ukrainian Armed Forces damaged the Slavyanin on July 23rd. I remember reporting that. This ferry is currently awaiting repairs and is in the Sea of Azov. So the Slavyanin out of commission as well. And Conroe Trader, which was just hit a few days ago, sank after an attack on August 22nd in the port of Kavkaz, which we just reported, paralyzing the Kerch ferry crossing for an indefinite period. Okay, so the ferry crossing has been destroyed. The Conroe trader it sank and was destroyed because it had fuel on it. And it says your fuel is not delivered to Crimea via the Kerch Bridge by rail, since the structures are weakened after the explosion on the bridge and the burning of the freight train. They also feared that a missile strike could be launched again against the fuel train. Therefore, our advice Crimeans remains the same. Stock up on fuel or switch to electric transport. So look at the dire situation for the Crimeans, what they're in now due to these successful strikes on these ferries. And that's why I've been telling you guys, it doesn't seem like a significant hit. Why would a ferry be something important? Well, it's one of the only ways that Russia has been transporting any critical supplies over to Crimea. So fuel, liquefied natural gas, even military equipment is being transported on these ferries for the Russian military inside of Crimea as well. So huge blow to the Russians in Crimea. And that's why I'm telling you guys, the Ukrainians are definitely preparing a major offensive on Crimea at some point. Lastly, I've got one more thing to show you here from Anton Gerashenko. I think this one's kind of funny, actually. Russian army has started covering tanks with rubber. It would make good protection against fragments and drone drops. However, it won't stand a chance against an ATGM, a guided missile, or a 155 millimeter shell, so like an artillery round. So apparently, we're starting to see a lot of this. The Russians are starting to cover their tanks with rubber now. They put these cages around them to protect from the drones, but then they also attach a bunch of rubber to them to protect them from drone attacks. Now, this rubber could definitely help out protect the tank a little bit, but then understand too that rubber is also extremely flammable. If it gets hot enough, if a fire breaks out large enough, it is very difficult to put out a fire when rubber catches on fire because of the material that it's made up of. So obviously, this is kind of like a good thing, but at the same time, not a good thing. But the Russians are definitely doing whatever they can to protect their equipment, because we've seen time and time again, even just a simple FPV drone, a small quadcopter drone with an explosive device attached to it, we've seen them blow up tanks before. Okay, so they're definitely trying to do whatever they can to protect their critical assets here, like their tanks and things like that. Okay, so that's going to be it though, guys. I had a lot of stuff to discuss here with you today. I understand it was another long video, but man, there's just so much information coming out from this war right now. It's absolutely insane. And we were told from Viktor Orban, again, I've been saying this many times, he has come out and said this war was going to get very brutal in the near term before the U.S. elections come up in November. Okay, so we're definitely going to have lots and lots of big updates coming out every single day, and I'll try to cover this as much as I possibly can. But I want to thank you all so much for tuning in today, guys. If you got something out of this update, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.